I am Brandon Knox, 36 years old, a speaker who stands before hundreds of people talking about success, effort, and self-worth. But every time I step off the stage when the spotlight dims, I return to myself. A brother, a son carrying a nameless wound in my heart. That wound has a name, Logan, my younger brother. Logan and I are like two lines that intersect once and then drift apart forever. I didn't come from a wealthy family. Our suburban house was always filled with laughter, but also with worries. Dad was a car mechanic, Mom was a housewife, and money was something we counted penny by penny. I learned to be frugal from a young age, from saving spare change to skipping breakfast to buy used books. I didn't resent it. Poverty isn't a sin, it taught me one thing. If I wanted to change my life, I had to do it myself. But my younger brother Logan was different. He was the sunshine in our parents' eyes, the spoiled youngest child. Logan was lazy, fond of sleeping until noon, and never completed anything he started. He dropped out of school halfway, claiming, "Life's long, why bother studying?" While I hunched over work, Logan sprawled on the sofa, scrolling through his phone, laughing carefree. I didn't blame him for that. Who doesn't have the right to live as they please? But what pierced my heart was the way he looked at me, as if I owed him something, as if everything I had belonged to him. I remember one afternoon when I returned from a business trip to London, exhausted but exhilarated after signing a major contract. I sat at the dining table telling Mom and Dad about my hectic days, the speeches that earned standing ovations. Mom nodded, but her eyes were fixed on the door, waiting for Logan. He walked in, hair disheveled, wearing a crumpled t-shirt, yawning widely. "Mom, I'm hungry," Logan said. And just like that, she hurried to the kitchen. Dad patted his shoulder, asking him a few questions. My story was left hanging, like a drop of water falling on a lake, leaving no trace. I'm not jealous, honestly. I just wished even once that Mom and Dad would look at me, truly look at me, the way they looked at Logan. But I've long grown used to comforting myself. I remember the tough, lonely years in college, living in a cramped, rented room where the smell of mildew clung to my clothes. By day I studied. By night I worked as a waiter, delivered packages, anything to make ends meet. Some nights I collapsed at my desk, eyes burning, wondering if I was chasing a dream that didn't exist. But every time I wanted to give up, I thought of Mom and Dad, of Logan, of our old house. I didn't want to be a burden. I wanted them to be proud. Logan, on the other hand, always lived with our parents, always loved, always eyeing what I had. When we were kids, he'd fight me for my toys. Now, with my modest success, he started coveting what I own. He doesn't say it outright, but I see his eyes linger on the watch I wear, the car I drive, the house I bought with my own sweat. Once, he asked to borrow money, his tone casual. "You earn so much. What's a little for me?" I gave it to him not because I had plenty, but because I didn't want to argue. But each time I felt like I was nurturing something dangerous, something that would turn and bite me. I travel a lot for work, from New York to Tokyo, from grand conference halls to small meeting rooms. Each trip is a challenge, but also a chance to prove myself. I love the feeling of standing before a crowd, sharing my story, inspiring those searching for light in the darkness. But every time I return home, I face Logan, the brother who's never known what effort means, who's never understood the value of what I've worked so hard to achieve. Mom and Dad don't see it. To them, Logan is the child who needs protection, while I'm the strong one, the one who doesn't need attention. "Brandon, you can handle things," Mom once said, her voice gentle but like a knife. I nodded, smiled, but inside I wondered, how strong do I have to be before I'm allowed to be weak? I don't hate Logan. There are moments when I miss the little boy who used to run after me, holding my hand when he got lost in the park. But that boy is gone, replaced by a 30-year-old man who lives off our parents, off me, with no intention of changing. I've tried talking to him, advising him to find a job, a purpose. Logan just laughed, shrugged. Why worry? I'm fine like this. Fine? I don't know. But I know there's an unbridgeable gap between us. I chose my path, one full of thorns, but also full of light. Logan chose an easy road, but I fear it will one day lead him to a dead end. I stand before the mirror, adjusting my tie, preparing for my next business trip. My phone buzzes. A message from Mom. "Brandon, Logan needs some money. Can you help him?" I sigh, not replying. Out there, the world awaits me, but in my heart, I carry a wordless question. Will there ever be a day when my family sees me not as the strong older brother, but as a human being with my own wounds and desires? I left the city on a drizzly morning, pulling my suitcase behind me, my mind already set on Tokyo. This month-long business trip was a big opportunity, a series of international workshops where I would stand before thousands, sharing my story. I didn't mind the exhaustion because every speech was a brick in the foundation of my dream. Before leaving, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off the keys to my house and car. "Please keep these for me," I said softly. Mom nodded, Dad patted my shoulder, and Logan, as usual, was nowhere to be seen. I didn't think much of it. I trusted my parents. I trusted my family. Tokyo greeted me with its frenetic pace. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of activity, workshops, press conferences, handshakes, and polite smiles. I worked myself to the bone, but every time I stood on stage, seeing the attentive eyes in the audience, I felt every effort was worthwhile. I texted Mom a few times, checking on her and Dad's health. Her replies were brief, often ending with a line about Logan. "Your brother's feeling down, probably needs some money." I sighed, transferred a small amount, as was my habit. I didn't want to argue from thousands of miles away. While I stood under the stage lights, speaking about responsibility and self-respect, Logan was back home, stepping into my world. Not as a brother, but as a thief. I didn't know, couldn't know, until I returned. The day I landed at the airport, it was still raining, as if the weather was foreshadowing what awaited me. I was exhausted but eager to get home, take a hot shower, and sleep for hours. I took a taxi since my car was at my parents' house. When I opened the door to my home, I froze. Everything was out of place. The furniture was disheveled, the smell of cigarette smoke clung to the sofa, and on the table sat a few empty beer cans. My heart raced. I checked every room, every corner. There were no signs of a break-in, but someone had clearly been here, acting as if they owned the place. I called Mom immediately. "Mom, has anyone been in my house? I left the keys with you." Her voice hesitated, then she spoke as if it were a minor matter. "Oh, Logan stayed there for a few weeks. He said he needed a temporary place." I was speechless. A temporary place? Logan lived with our parents. He had his own room, everything he needed. Why did he come into my house, rummage through my things, sleep in my bed? I tried to stay calm, pressing further. "And where's my car? I need it for work." This time, Mom was silent for longer. "Brandon, about that. Let me talk to Logan." I couldn't wait. I drove to my parents' house, my blood boiling. Logan was in the living room, listening to music through earphones, feet propped up on the table. He looked at me, smirking. "Back already? Had fun?" I didn't respond, cutting straight to the point. "Logan, what were you doing in my house? Where's my car?" He shrugged, his tone casual. "I borrowed the car for a few spins." "No big deal, relax." I clenched my fists, trying not to shout. "So where's the car now?" Logan looked away, mumbling, "Well, it's not here right now." I forced him to explain. And then, like a punch to the chest, the truth came out. Logan hadn't just driven my car, he had pawned it. Pawned it. The car I bought with my sweat, my sleepless nights, my exhausting long-haul flights. He pawned it to fund his partying, to pay for the lavish items he flaunted on social media. I stood there, staring at the brother I once held hands with in the park, feeling the ground crumble beneath me. "How are you going to get the money to get the car back?" I asked, my voice trembling. Logan scoffed. "You get it back. You've got money." I couldn't believe my ears. Not only had he stolen from me, but he acted as if it was my obligation, as if I owed him. I turned to our parents, who had witnessed the entire conversation. "You knew about this, didn't you?" Mom looked down. Dad cleared his throat and said, "Logan was wrong, but he's still young, Brandon. Don't make a big deal out of it." Young? Logan is 30, no longer a child to be forgiven for foolish mistakes. I looked at my parents, waiting for an apology, a reprimand for Logan. But nothing. Mom took Logan's hand, comforting him. "Don't worry, I'll talk to your brother." Dad looked at me, his voice stern. "Brandon, you're the older brother. You need to be forgiving. If the car's gone, buy another one. Don't let this tear the family apart." I laughed, but it was a bitter, hollow laugh. Family? Family is where I placed my trust only to be betrayed. Family is where I hoped for recognition only to receive indifference. I looked at Logan, still sitting there, not a trace of remorse. I looked at my parents, who were ready to overlook his every mistake because he was the child who needed protection. And I realized in this house I had no place. I left without another word. On the drive back, the rain poured harder, as if trying to wash everything away. I sat in my house, surrounded by the traces Logan left behind, feeling as though I'd been robbed, not just of my possessions, but of my trust. I had done everything for my family, worked, sacrificed, endured, but in return I got betrayal and blame. I closed my eyes, asking myself, can I keep forgiving? Can I keep being the strong older brother when my heart is bleeding? And then the past came rushing back, vivid as if it had happened yesterday. The years of growing up, the times I was overlooked, forgotten, just because I was Brandon, the strong older brother, the one who didn't need attention. I remember when I was 12, when I won first place in the school-wide speech competition. I clutched the small trophy running home, my heart bursting with excitement. I imagined Mom would hug me. Dad would pat my shoulder, proudly telling the neighbors. But when I stepped into the house, Mom was consoling Logan, then only 6, because he'd broken her favorite vase. "Brandon, put the trophy down and help me clean up the pieces," she said, not once glancing at the trophy in my hands. Dad sat in his chair, reading the newspaper, only looking up to ask, "Is Logan okay?" I stood there, my smile fading, the trophy suddenly feeling heavy. That night I tucked it away in a drawer, never taking it out again. Moments like that repeated, like a sad refrain in my childhood. I always tried, excelling in school, playing sports, doing chores, not for praise, but for Mom and Dad to see me. But every time I brought home an achievement, Logan would do something to steal the spotlight. He'd break something, talk back to a teacher, or simply pretend to be sick. And just like that, all eyes turned to him. "Logan's still young," Mom would always say, as if I, only 6 years older, was already an adult, no longer needing love. When I was 18, I earned a university scholarship, a chance to escape poverty, to change my life. I spent 3 months writing the essay, revising it endlessly, staying up all night to perfect it. The day I received the acceptance letter, my hands trembled as I opened the envelope, tears streaming down my face. I called home, my voice choked with emotion. "Mom, I got the scholarship. I'm going to university." Mom laughed over the phone, but then she said, "That's great, Brandon. But Logan just got expelled for fighting. Can you come home and talk to him?" I hung up, collapsing onto the dorm floor, feeling as if my greatest joy had been snatched away. Logan never tried. He dropped out of school, hung out with friends, spent our parents' money without a thought for the future. But Mom and Dad never blamed him. They bought him a new phone, paid his fines when he got into trouble, and always said, "Logan will change. Just give him time." I didn't understand. Time? I had used my time to study, to work, to build a life independent of anyone. But in my parents' eyes, my efforts were expected, while Logan's laziness was something to be forgiven. Once I came home for Christmas, bringing a small gift, a wool scarf I'd bought at a London night market for Mom. I thought she'd like it, since she always complained about the cold in winter. When I gave it to her, she smiled, but then she said, "Thank you, but Logan needs new clothes. Do you have any money to lend him?" I nodded, handed over the money, but my heart felt crushed. That scarf, Mom never used it. I saw it lying in a corner of the cupboard, gathering dust, like my efforts in her eyes. I used to brush off those memories, telling myself that my parents loved me, they just didn't know how to show it. But sitting here now, facing Logan's betrayal, him entering my house, taking my car, pawning it like it was a toy, I can't lie to myself anymore. The injustice didn't start today. It's been decades in the making, from the days I was a boy clutching a speech trophy to now, a 36-year-old man still living in the shadow of his younger brother. I stood up, opened the drawer, and took out the old trophy from elementary school. It was tarnished but intact. I held it, feeling the weight of my dreams, my efforts, and the wounds I'd kept hidden. I didn't want to continue. I didn't want to be the strong older brother, the one who always forgives, always sacrifices. I'd given Logan too many chances, given my parents too much time to see me. But they didn't see, and perhaps they never will. I set the trophy down, looking out the window. The rain had stopped, but the sky remained gray, mirroring my mood. I knew what I had to do. Not out of anger, not out of selfishness, but because I deserved respect, not just from others, but from myself. Logan had crossed a line, and my parents, by shielding him, had pushed me to a point of no return. I picked up the phone and called a friend who's a lawyer. "I need advice," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "About filing a lawsuit. The past taught me that if I don't stand up for myself, no one will. I've lost too much, not just the car, but my trust, and the years I hoped my family would one day be fair. But today I choose myself. I choose the hard but right path. And though my heart still aches, I know this is the first time I'm truly living for myself." The next day I was at the lawyer's office. I never imagined I'd find myself here, sitting across from a middle-aged man in a suit discussing suing my own brother. But that day I was there, gripping the chair tightly, my heart heavy. "Brandon," David, my friend, said in a calm voice, "are you sure you want to do this? This isn't just about money, this is family." I looked out the window where the city was shifting under the glow of dusk. "I know," I replied, "but I don't have any other choice." The car wasn't just a possession. It was a symbol of the years I poured my sweat into, the sleepless nights, the times I gritted my teeth and pushed through hardship. Logan didn't just take it, he pawned it, as if all my efforts were a joke, and my parents, by shielding him, had pushed me to my limit. I wasn't suing Logan out of anger. I was suing because I needed him to understand that actions have consequences, and I deserved respect. David helped me prepare the paperwork. The pawn contract Logan signed had several loopholes, and the law was on my side. The value of the car plus emotional damages amounted to a significant sum. But I didn't care about the money. I wanted Logan to face accountability, to learn to stand on his own as I had. I signed the lawsuit, filed it with the court, and notified my parents. It was the hardest call of my life. "Brandon, what are you doing?" Mom screamed over the phone, her voice breaking. "Suing your brother? Have you lost your mind?" I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. "Mom, Logan took my car, pawned it, and didn't even apologize." "What do you think I should do?" Mom cried. "Not for me, but for Logan. He was wrong, but he's your brother. Can't you let it go? You have money, you can buy another car." I fell silent. Her words were like a knife, stabbing the deepest wound. I wasn't a bank for Logan to withdraw from, not a tree for him to lean on forever. Dad called right after, his voice furious. "Brandon, withdraw the lawsuit now. Do you want the whole family to be shamed? Logan knows he was wrong. Let us handle it." I gave a bitter smile, not out of amusement, but because I'd seen it coming. "How will you handle it? Give Logan more money, forgive him again, let him keep doing this?" Dad went quiet, then said, "You're too selfish, Brandon. Do you think you're the only one who suffered?" I hung up, my hands trembling. Selfish? I'd given everything, time, money, patience, but it was never enough. A few days later, my parents showed up at my house. They didn't call ahead, just knocked, and when I opened the door, I saw Mom with red, swollen eyes and Dad with a tense expression. Logan wasn't with them. Perhaps he didn't have the courage. They sat on the sofa, still tinged with the smell of cigarette smoke from Logan's stay. "Brandon," Mom began softly. I'm begging you, don't sue Logan. He's sorry. I'll pay to get the car back. Just withdraw the lawsuit. I looked at Mom, the woman who raised me, but all I could see now was her blind favoritism. Have you ever thought about me? I asked, my voice choking. I work, I strive, I built everything from nothing. But you only see Logan, only worry about Logan. I'm tired. Mom cried. Dad looked down, but neither answered. Their silence confirmed what I'd known for a long time. In their eyes, I wasn't as important as Logan. I didn't want to argue anymore. I made an offer, not to compromise, but to protect myself and perhaps to save Logan. I'll withdraw the lawsuit, I said, but on one condition. Logan has to get a job. He has to use his salary to pay off the car's debt. Every transaction must be documented transparently. And from now on, Logan can't ask you for money. Mom looked up, stunned. Dad frowned. Are you forcing him? You know Logan's not used to working. I shook my head. No, Dad, I'm giving him a chance. If you keep shielding him, Logan will never grow up. The air in the room was heavy as lead. Mom clutched Dad's hand, as if I'd just sentenced Logan to death. Brandon, you're too rigid, she said, her voice trembling. Do you want your brother to suffer? I looked straight into her eyes for the first time, not backing down. Mom, I want Logan to live like a man, not a child forever. If you think that's suffering, then I have nothing more to say. Dad stood up, his voice cold. Do what you want. But don't blame us for not warning you. You'll regret tearing this family apart. I didn't respond. I opened the door, seeing them out. When the door closed, I sank to the floor, hugging my knees. Regret? I didn't know. But I knew for the first time in my life I was choosing to protect my worth, even if it meant fracturing ties with the people I loved most. A few days later, Mom called again, her voice weary. I agree. Logan will get a job. I'll supervise him. Withdraw the lawsuit. I nodded, though she couldn't see. I'll withdraw it, but I want to meet Logan to hear him commit to this. Mom hesitated, then agreed. The meeting was arranged at my parents' house, but I knew it wouldn't be a reconciliation. It would be my final attempt to make Logan understand, to make my family understand that I wasn't selfish. Just someone who had endured too much for too long. I braced myself, but my heart still ached. I didn't want to lose my parents, didn't want to lose Logan. But if the cost of keeping them was to keep sacrificing myself, I'd rather face this pain. I looked out the window. The city still glowed with lights, but in my heart, a part of my family had gone dark forever. The meeting with Logan was scheduled for a late weekend afternoon at our parents' house. I stepped into the familiar home, once my sanctuary, but now filled only with distance. Mom sat at the corner of the table, her eyes red and swollen. Dad leaned against the wall, his face tense. Logan sat on the sofa, head bowed, no trace of his usual carefree smirk. I looked at him, searching for the little boy who used to run after me, holding my hand in the park. But all I saw was a 30-year-old man with slumped shoulders and evasive eyes. I didn't beat around the bush. Logan, I said, my voice calm but firm. I'll withdraw the lawsuit, but you have to commit. You need to find a job, pay off the debt with your own salary, and from now on you can't ask Mom and Dad for money. Logan looked up, his lips moving slightly, but he said nothing. Mom interjected, her voice trembling. Brandon, don't push him. Logan will try, but he needs time. I shook my head. Mom, time isn't something to waste. Logan's had 10 years to grow up. It's time he takes responsibility. Finally, Logan spoke, his voice low but lacking its usual defiance. All right, fine. I'll do it. I'm sorry. I looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. I wasn't sure if he was truly remorseful or just saying what he needed to get out of trouble. But I had no other choice. I nodded. Good. I'll be watching. If you don't follow through, the lawsuit will be refiled. Mom burst into tears. Dad sighed heavily, but I didn't waver. I'd given Logan too many chances, and this was his last. I withdrew the lawsuit as promised. David, my lawyer friend, shook his head when I told him, You're too soft, Brandon. But I hope you're right. I didn't know if I was right or wrong, only that I couldn't keep living in a cycle of unconditional forgiveness. Logan needed to learn to stand on his own, and I needed to learn to let go. Not of my family, but of the expectation that they'd change for me. In the months that followed, I got updates about Logan through Mom. He found a job, a sales position at a supermarket, low paying but a start. Mom shared, her voice a mix of pride and worry. Logan's been going to work regularly, but he says it's tiring. Say something to him, Brandon. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to intervene. Didn't want to be the older brother always pulling him up. Logan needed to walk on his own 2 feet. Gradually, Logan changed. He paid off the debt bit by bit, sending me small monthly payments with transparent documentation, as I'd required. I didn't feel joy or relief, only a small sense of justice being restored. Logan started taking care of himself, buying clothes with his own money, even moving out of our parents' house to rent a small room. Mom called it a miracle, but to me it was just what should have happened long ago. But the cost I paid was steep. My parents no longer spoke to me the way they used to. Mom still called, but only to talk about Logan, never asking how I was or how my work was going. Dad was colder, as if I were the one who betrayed the family. Once I visited, bringing some fruit, hoping to mend things. Dad looked at me and said bluntly, "You made Logan suffer. Are you satisfied now?" I stood there, holding the bag of fruit, feeling as if I'd been slapped. I left without a word. I haven't gone back since. The hurt runs deeper than I expected. I did everything for my family, worked, sacrificed, forgave, but in return I lost them. I sat in my house looking out at the city's glowing lights, wondering if I was wrong. Was I too harsh? Did I, as Dad said, tear the family apart? But then I remembered the years of being overlooked, the times I swallowed my tears to keep pushing forward. No, I wasn't wrong. I chose to protect my worth, and if the price was this distance, I'd accept it. Logan may be changing, but the wound in me remains. I don't hate him, don't hate my parents. I'm just tired. Tired of proving I deserve love, deserve respect. I continue my work, standing on stages, sharing my story. But each time I look out at the audience, I no longer search for my family's eyes. I've learned to stand on my own, even if my heart still aches. Tonight I sit at my desk, the golden glow of the lamp casting light on the pages of my favorite books. On the shelf, the speech trophy from my elementary school days still sits, tarnished but intact, a reminder of my journey. I'm not writing this story to talk about success or to boast about my achievements. I'm writing to speak of the scars, the choices, and the lessons I've learned from a family that once meant everything to me. Life isn't fair. I understood that from a young age, when my efforts were forgotten, when my accomplishments were overlooked simply because I was the strong older brother. But I also learned that fairness isn't something others hand to you. Fairness is something you must claim, by living true to your values, by standing up for yourself, even if it means confronting the people you love most. Logan was wrong when he took my car, when he pawned it as if I owed him. But my parents were even more wrong for shielding him, for dismissing my pain. I didn't sue Logan for revenge. I sued to make him understand that every action has consequences, that life isn't a series of days forgiven without condition. And I set strict requirements, a job, responsibility, transparency, not to make things hard for him, but to teach him to live like a man the way I had. My decision wasn't easy. I lost my parents not because they passed away, but because they chose to stand by Logan even when he was wrong. I lost the family evenings, the check-in calls, the hugs I once craved. But I don't regret it. I helped Logan change, even if just a little. He works, pays off his debt, and has started taking care of himself. It's a small victory, but for me it's enough to prove I was right. More importantly, I protected my self-respect. I'm no longer the boy clutching a speech trophy waiting for my parents' approving gaze. I'm no longer the strong older brother ready to sacrifice to keep the peace. I'm Brandon Knox, a man who knows his worth, who knows he deserves respect even if it costs him the closest relationships. This story doesn't have a happy ending like in the movies. My family didn't reconcile, my parents didn't apologize, and Logan didn't become the perfect brother. But life doesn't need perfect endings. It needs right choices, even if they hurt. I chose the hard path, not just to protect my possessions, but to protect myself and to give Logan a chance to grow. I sacrificed my relationship with my family, but I found freedom. Freedom to live true to myself, to no longer be bound by unreasonable expectations. If you're reading this story, I want you to remember one thing. Don't wait for others to recognize your worth. Don't sacrifice yourself to please those who don't see you. Stand up, claim your fairness, and live with self-respect, even if it means walking alone. I did it, and though my heart still aches, I know I made the right choice. I look out at the city, its lights still shining, and for the first time I smile. Not out of happiness, but because I've found myself.